on the topic of theosis. So I remember I came in on here a while back, and I'm glad that you're here, Father Stephen, so I can pick your brain again on the idea of being uncreated through theosis. How do you keep that distinction between creator and creature if you have these divine qualities, especially which contradict, at least from my understanding, what a human is? A human is created, so then they become uncreated, you know?
Real quick, Tesfa, are you Eastern Orthodox?
No. I'm the Ethiopian guy that was here a while back.
Oh, okay. So I was going to say, we can say that because St. Gregory Palamas says that in the triads, because somebody asked me this and I didn't feel confident to say that, we are becoming uncreated or participating in the uncreated. But for whoever asked me that last time, St. Gregory Palamas says that in the triads. So we also
I think it was me. I think it was me who asked.
Was it you? It might have been.
Yeah, it was definitely it was me.
So Father Stephen, yeah.
Yeah, so I've been going back and forth. I'm being honest with you now. I've been going back and forth on how much I should even talk about some of this stuff.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't
based on some of the response. I mean,
no, because I feel like
and you're not one of these people. You're not one of these people I'm about to mention. Let me be very clear.
Yes,
and I'm not going to name them, but they know who they are. Some of them are just the usual idiots who deliberately misunderstand things to try and get attention and stir up trouble. You're not one of those people. But there have also been a lot of well-meaning people who I think just have gotten confused. And some of this stuff, like the talk I gave at Peugeot Fest, and some of this stuff that we talked about in the Christmas episode of Lord of Spirits, is really just dipping toes into some of this stuff in the Philokalia. And I've been thinking, there's a reason they tell most people not to read the Philokalia. So it's maybe something that should be read privately. But yeah, the core is that, again, definitionally, we become by grace what Christ is by nature.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we do not take on the divine nature, right? It is not like a reverse incarnation. And I think that's what some people hear sometimes when they hear about theosis. They think it's a reverse incarnation, right? Where Christ is a divine person. Christ takes on our human nature in the incarnation. And so I think some people think that theosis means I am a human person. I take on a divine nature, as if now I'm the incarnate fourth person of the Trinity or something. No. Right? No.
Right.
That's not even an accurate description of Mormonism. So no, that's not at all. I remain a human person.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I do not share the divine nature in that reverse way.
Right.
But Christ's human nature participates in his divine nature.
Mm-hmm.
And through that, I myself with my human nature come to participate in the divine nature. Right? So in Christ's incarnation, and we see this revealed, it's true in the incarnation, but we see it revealed in his glorification.
Mm-hmm.
We get a glimpse of it at Theophany, right? And then it's fully revealed when he ascends and is seated at the right hand of the Father, right? His human nature begins to share in these qualities, right, of the divine nature. So, for example, right, our human nature is finite and is only present at one place in space and time. Okay. But Christ, including his human nature, is not bound by time, is not bound by space, right? He enters the room with the doors being shut, right? And his body and blood are no longer finite. His body and blood are on every altar throughout the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He doesn't cease being human. right?
Right.
His human nature is still intact, but his human nature has come to participate in his divine nature. And so in theosis, our humanity comes to participate in Christ, in the divine nature that he shares with the Father and the Spirit, so that elements of those properties are communicated to us. And that's what it means when St. Peter says that we're partakers, we're participants in the divine nature.
Right. So do the qualities of Christ's divine nature be applied or be put, like, would you say for example, the property of being uncreated, is that proper to his human nature as well? Or is that something you can never say? It's
not proper to it, but his human nature comes to participate in it.
Okay. Is it, and that would be by the incarnation, the union between the,
right. By the perfect union of, yes.
Okay. And so, for for like us as other people, humans, would you say like, it would be to the same extent as Christ's humanity?
Well, no, because Christ would be at the end of theosis, right? But that's
and that's like infinitely
an infinite path, right?
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I was talking to some guys about this after some like pan-Orthodox event, and it's like, it's so hard to understand because you think that, like, for example, the Theotokos is like so like down the line in theosis, but then you're thinking like, oh man, one day I'll participate in theosis. Maybe I'll be as deified as the Theotokos, but then like she'll be so much more far along by the time that I get there, and be like, wait, hold on, time actually doesn't even apply to any of this after a certain point. So
yeah, I was just thinking
it's really hard to understand. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is something that actually begins in this life, right? In the sense that, right, and this is fake me. I saw posted that clip of me talking to you about the
pseudo Stephen, yes,
the Late Flowers interview, and I just glanced through some of the comments and I saw that some of the Calvinists didn't get it. In terms of the temporal sequence, they're like, well, doesn't it have to be a temporal sequence? Well, no, those could all happen at the same time.
Yeah, well, you gave examples.
Made righteous.
Too. Yeah.
That's what justification means. You could be made righteous. You could be sanctified, meaning you could be made holy. And you could come to share in Christ's glory. Those things can, number one, be ongoing, right? And they can all happen at the same time. They could be talking about different aspects of our salvation. So, and that's not us being made that way separate from God. We come to share in Christ's holiness. We come to share in Christ's righteousness. We come to, Christ shares his glory with us, as St. Paul says in Romans 8 in context. Right. That all happens at once. The other funny comment I saw was, this isn't historical about the Old Testament. This is St. Paul reassuring the Roman Christians. And I'm like, why is that an either or? He's pointing to the saints of the past who experienced all those things in order to encourage Christians today that God would bring to conclusion the work he had begun in them. Those ideas aren't opposed to each other.
Yeah. Does that answer your questions, Tesfa?
I mean, that a big portion of this is the fact that it's really partially something that's impossible to even conceive of,
Yes.
So for example, even now I'm trying to think of, okay, if Christ is at the end, if Christ's humanity is at the end of theosis, well, what does that even mean? There's no end to it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
for us, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the perfection of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The fullness, right? Yeah. Yeah.
But
it's kind of like that, it's kind of like when you talk to an atheist when they talk about like the Big Bang and they say, oh, the universe is expanding into what? It's the same concept. Like what is it expanding into?
The edge of space is moving outward into what?
Exactly.
There's not space beyond the edge of space. So what?
So some of this is a little bit.
Yeah. Or
like
somebody
beyond
says,
our ability.
what happened before God created time? And you're like, before?
Can't use the word before. Yeah.
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 Wow.
Yeah, but this
Well,
is why St.
actually,
Paul,
Doctor. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
when St. Paul gets really deep into theology, something you notice when you read his letters, right? 1 Corinthians 15 is a perfect example. He's getting really deep into the resurrection and our resurrected bodies and all of this. He always ends up singing. He always ends up going from this really deep theology into just a poem or a hymn, giving praise to God, giving praise to Christ, right, for his glory and the majesty of what he's done. Because that's where it ends up. You just get to this point where you're like, this is beyond what I can fathom. I'm just in awe of who God is and what he's done.
Yeah.
Right.
I would encourage, I don't know if Father Stephen, if you've seen this, but Father Lucas and Dr. Nathan Jacobs has a great video on free will and
Father
God's
Joseph
foreknowledge.
Oh, I
Joseph
think
Lucas?
I've seen it actually. I only
Yes,
like watched the
Father
clips.
Joseph Lucas, yeah.
Okay. Because I have another
And he-
friend who's Father Lucas.
Oh,
Is his first name. Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Nathan Jacobs has the God's foreknowledge. That podcast is really, really well. It's a little wordy, but he gets to the point where he talks about how our view of God's foreknowledge is derived from St. John of Damascus. And that really helps you understand, especially if you're coming from a Western kind of framework, which I did, about free will. And I think that really helps understand things, objects of knowledge and things of that nature in terms of a linear time frame. Kind of helps you put into perspective that a lot of this is difficult to apply within time and space for us. God's not bound to any of that. So
Yeah. Father Joseph Lucas is an old friend of mine. He's also Romanian. It was originally Lukash.
he's also working on a book.
Oh, yeah.
He's working on a book that's going to compete with yours, Father.
What's it on?
In the last one, the last podcast he did with Dr. Nathan Jacobs, it was like not even a few days ago, I think. He mentions he's working on a book on atonement.
Oh, okay.
From a Reformed perspective. Maybe you want to exchange notes. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, let's not say it's competing with. I mean,
It's supporting one another. Right?
Eric Ibarra is apparently also working on an atonement book. I don't think it will be competing with Father Stevens.
That's fair enough.
Hopefully he'll understand his own church's position better at the end of that project. Well, yeah, I mean, Father Joseph wrote his dissertation on having to do with atonement and sacrifice. And I've got a copy of it over here. It's St. Cyril of Alexandria.
Yeah, he's expanding that into a whole book, he said.
Yeah.
Very nice. Tesfa, real quick, does that you have any other questions on this?
Okay, let me just see if I understand it correctly. So, pretty much in short, it's not that humans become God by nature; they become God by grace, of course. Okay, and so the property is given to Christ via the incarnation, or maybe not. It's not the property. Okay, hold on. Words are tricky, man. Hold on.
Through the entire work in the
there's a participation, there's a sharing that happens in the union of the incarnation between.
Well, if you can call the human nature of Christ as participating in the divine nature, then like
right,
wouldn't it be better to say it's a union rather than a participation? Because even we participate in the divine nature.
Yeah, I mean they're united, but it only, that participation only goes one way.
Oh, like the human properties,
the divine to the human
divine ones.
Yeah, like those aren't communicated to the divine nature, like human limitations are right.
Correct. Yeah. Well, to that anyway. So if Christ's humanity is participating in the divine nature, and you can use that same language, I'm not trying to make this like a linguistic point or anything like that, but like if you can use the same idea for humans, then what's the difference between the union between Christ's humanity and his divinity and its participation, and the participation between us humans and the divine nature as well?
Christ is a human or a divine person. We're human persons.
He's uncreated.
Yeah. So
Right, yeah.
we're consubstantial with Christ in our humanity.
Mm-hmm.
That's the nature of the of our connection.
Yeah, but
that's our
Christ's
union with Christ is that we are consubstantial with him in our humanity, in the same way that the union of the Holy Trinity is that they are consubstantial.
Right. But you
other.
wouldn't say like Christ's
divine
human
nature.
nature is consubstantial to his divine nature, right?
No.
Yeah, and so the way it's communicated is through participation. His human nature is participating in the divine nature. We
Right.
participate in the divine nature. So what's the
We're united to
symmetry
him,
breaker?
and through him, our humanity comes to participate in the divine nature that he shares with the Father and the Spirit.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I guess I'm looking at it from like I should be looking at it from a top down. So it's like Trinity.
That's because Christ is a divine person. He has that union just at the incarnation. That's why even before he's glorified, it says that he knew the thoughts of all the men around him, right? For us, like Father Stephen is saying, like we cannot do that just by ourselves. We need to go through Christ.
Right. So
Christ doesn't need a medium.
Think of it right. So that's exactly the way to think about it. We are united to Christ in our humanity, right? Mm-hmm. Christ is united to the Father, the Spirit, in his divinity.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore Christ, as St. Paul says, is the one mediator between God and man.
Okay.
Christ in the incarnation is the connection point between the two.
Right.
That makes theosis possible.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Thank you guys. I need to meditate on this more, so I appreciate it a lot. I'll see you guys. You guys have a great day.
Word. Thanks for calling in, Tesfa. Nice guy.